U-Inspire Alliance is a network of youth and young professionals working in science, engineering, technology, and innovation.
U-Inspire Alliance provides the platform for youth and young professionals to connect, engage, and learn from other youth and experts in the region.
We are not only at the international conferences or at the laboratories. U-Inspire is working together with the local community in the field.
To participate in decision making, demonstrating their ability for advocacy, communication and consultation, as well as leveraging advanced technology.
We strongly believe that inclusivity is the integral factor of the DRR. Hence, all our work and projects are people-centric and from the communities on the ground.
We are committed to supporting youth leadership. We are happy to work with the U-Inspire Alliance.
U-Inspire Alliance bridges the gap between professionals and young specialists and make it possible to exchange knowledge and experience between Asian countries to make them more resilient.
We work with youth and the young professionals from the academe and the industry sectors to build back better in a post-pandemic world.
U-Inspire has connected us and bring us together to contribute for disaster risk reduction and climate change by utilizing science, engineering, technology, and innovation.
Thank you, Dr. Rema. Can we begin? Okay. So once again, I welcome you all to this chapter of Choco DRR. Floods, with their devastating force and widespread impact, they have emerged as a recurring phenomenon that transcends geographical boundaries. Whether in urban centers or rural communities, floods disrupt lives, they damage infrastructure, they harm ecosystems and test the resilience of societies. And as we confront the ever-increasing frequency and intensity of these events, it sort of becomes imperative for us to come together, share our knowledge, and explore innovative strategies to mitigate the challenges posed by floods. So throughout history, civilizations have grappled with the destructive power of floods, from the ancient societies, let's say along the Nile and the Indus rivers, to modern metropolises battling urban flooding. Today, however, we stand at this unique juncture where we have climate change, we have urbanization and population growth, which have dramatically amplified the vulnerabilities of our communities to this hazard of floods. These interconnected factors demand that we rethink our approach to flood management and adopt adaptive strategies that ensure the safety and well-being of our population. So in this session, we aim to foster a collaborative environment where experts, policymakers, researchers, and practitioners, scholars, they can come together to share their experience, their insights, and innovative solutions. With that, I take the pleasure of introducing our first speaker, Mohammed Alif, who is the Secretary of U-Inspire Alliance Chapter Maldives. He holds a BSc in Environmental Management from Maldives National University, MNU. Further, he also has an experience in project management and projects mainly dealing with environmental policy and environmental education. Alif, over to you.
Thank you, Saran. Are you able to see the screen? Okay.
Yes, clear.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Alif. I'll be presenting on floods in the context of Maldives. I'll be giving a short introduction on the Maldives, the different causes of flooding we experience and our vulnerabilities, what we think that can be done to address flood risk in the Maldives, and current efforts taken by the government and our local communities, as well as the initiatives of U-Inspire Maldives and the current challenges we face. First of all, the Maldives, we are a small island nation. We spread across 90,000 kilometers. Most of our EEZ is ocean, and a small percentage of that is land. And we experience two monsoons, one dry season and one rainy season. We have a very low elevation from sea level, and most of our land area is considered as the coastal zone. We have a lack of facilities and management, and also financial and technical capacities. Looking at the causes of flooding, we have heavy rainfall and also tidal or storm surges. Going into the first cause, heavy rainfall, as you all know, climate change is making weather patterns more unpredictable. And before, we used to have a set period between July and June and July, which we experience heavy rainfall, but now it's becoming more increasingly unpredictable. And the flooding that occurs because of this is more impactful because of poor urban planning in cities, and also lack of proper land use planning in other areas, as well as unsustainable development projects that are being taken. These are some of the pictures during heavy rainfall. This is from our capital city, Male. As you can see, there's a lot of vehicles on the road, and this makes it very difficult to get around in the city, and also a lot of damages to these vehicles and also the homes. Well, and a lot of times when there's a lot of flooding, we have to use pumps to take out the water, and it's more difficult in the outer islands because they would lack the facilities, the pumps to drain the floods. Going into the next cause of flooding, tidal or storm surges. Because of sea level rise, again, these tidal surges are becoming more intense, and this causes a lot of infrastructural damage, especially to critical infrastructures such as hospitals and other facilities, and also social and economical damage, for example, to crops and to agricultural lands. These are some pictures of how we experience tidal surges. This is from a harbor, and this is from a causeway that is experiencing the surges. So going into our vulnerabilities, as I mentioned before, we are low-lying smaller island nation with most of our land is considered the coastal zone. So many critical infrastructures have been built near beaches and harbor without proper defense to flooding and also these surges. And also at the island level, we have a lack of capacity. There's a very small population in the islands, and in the islands, they usually have either tourism or fisheries. So there's lack of economical diversification, which plays into the resilience, and also this exacerbates different social vulnerabilities within the communities. At the technical level, we also have a lack of proper data management, and also we don't have, most of our islands don't have island disaster management plans or community emergency response teams. So we need training at the local level, and also we lack institutional coordination between local levels of government and also the national government. And also, of course, we lack a lot of financial capacity to deal with all this. So what can we do to reduce that risk? We could engage in community-based risk mapping, and also integrating flood mapping into the current land use planning, and also making people more aware of the current building codes there and implementing these building codes. We need also to put more effort into strengthening institutional collaboration and also incorporate soft engineering components to reuse stormwater, for example, using rain gardens. So given all these vulnerabilities and all these factors, there are many efforts being undertaken by our National Disaster Management Agency. For example, they are trying to implement disaster management planning at island level, also early warning mechanisms where these tidal surges and also heavy rainfall the islands can be warned about this in time, and also they are trying to supply islands with flood drainage pumps and also promote the inclusion of women and other vulnerable groups in emergency and disaster risk management planning. And also there's plans to make emergency response teams at the island level, and NDMA currently does consultation for development projects to promote DRR and incorporate DRR into climate change adaptation projects. And we are also trying to introduce more insurance, for example, crop takaful, and although these insurances are now being introduced, the public is less aware about this. So raising awareness about these are one area we need to work on. Looking into initiatives by UInspire Maldives, we have prepared an emergency preparedness guide that details what to do before emergency situation, including floods, and also what to do during this situation and what to do after. We are also currently coming up with projects to help local councils in islands to develop island level disaster management plans, and also collaborating with NDMA and other NGOs on especially advocacy and awareness projects. Coming into the challenges faced by UNSWA Maldives, as any NGO or CSO, funding is a major challenge to implement our projects and our initiatives. And we lack expertise and personnel who are trained in DRR, so we need more training in that area. With that concludes my presentation. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Olive. Thank you so much. Thank you for drawing from your experience. So in the face of heavy rainfall, climate change, poor urban planning, and the threat of tidal or storm surges, the vulnerabilities of small island nations are pretty evident. So to reduce the impact of these challenges, it's only normal that community-based risk mapping, disaster management planning or early warning systems, flood drainage pumps, and inclusive emergency response efforts, they are to be implemented. And by involving local communities, improving infrastructure, and prioritizing, more importantly, the gender inclusive measures, it's important that we aim to enhance resilience and protect lives and coastal zones. It's crucial to address poor urban planning and data management issues while building upon existing initiatives to ensure a, let's say, sustainable and secure future for the island's inhabitants. Thank you so much once again. Our next speaker today is Karma Yongzong Dorji. Karma holds an MSc in Water Resource Engineering and Management, UNESCO Madanjit Singh Center for South Asian Water Management, University of Moratuwa, Colombo, Sri Lanka, and a bachelor's degree in Civil Engineering from Lovely Professional University, LPU, Punjab, India. Karma is currently working as the environmental and social expert on a World Bank funded project called Strengthening Risk Information for Disaster Resilience in Bhutan under the Department of Local Government and Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs. Karma's recent works include assessment of climate risk on water resources for Water Roadmap, National Adaptation Plan, NAP, and assessment of climate risks on vulnerability assessment for NAP formulation process in Bhutan, preparation of national waste management strategy and Thimphu waste management plan, and a blueprint document for access to 24/7 safe water supply. Karma, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Saran. That's a very nice introduction. Okay, let me start with my presentation right away. Oh, wait. Okay, so my name is Karma. I work as a consultant in the field of hydrology and environment. And today I'll be speaking about too much water and too little water, which both leads to water-related disasters. So these are some of the projects that I've done related to water and climate change projects in the country. I say climate change because water is a very climate sensitive sector. And I have done projects where we assess the impact of climate change on water resources. They are NAPA. And the following slides and the results that I will be showing are all from the studies that we have carried out. So I just wanted to we will be talking about flood and disaster throughout this session. So let me take you and put on to you, maybe for some of you may be very new, and for some of you must be knowing. Let me put on to you, and then just see. Let me show you this video. Let me know if you cannot hear the voice from the video.
Countries across the world are debating net zero. It was a rallying call of the COP26 summit. But here's the country that got there first: Bhutan.
Sorry to interrupt, Karma. The video has stopped.
Okay, let me just go there. What happened? Actually, I lost the icon to. Let me just go there. Give me a second.
Sure.
All right. You can see the screen, right?
Yes, the screen is visible. The video isn't playing.
Can you now?
Oh, yes, it just started playing. Yes.
So what does this mean? Bhutan produces 2.2 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. Guess how much it absorbs? Around 6 million tons. So effectively, Bhutan is taking out 4 million tons of greenhouse gases every year, acting as a natural carbon sink and absorbing carbon dioxide. How does the kingdom do this? By putting the environment in its constitution. Bhutan follows what it calls cross-national happiness. It has 4 pillars, one of them being sustainable environment. Here's what the constitution says about it. The government shall ensure that in order to conserve the country's natural resources and to prevent degradation of the ecosystem, a minimum of 60% of Bhutan's total land shall be maintained under forest cover at all times. This isn't some cosmetic legal promise. Bhutan actually does have 60% forest cover. What's more, 51% of the country is protected land. No encroachments, no multi-million-dollar projects. Bhutan under the policy guidance of our environmental chamber blocks. have demonstrated both leadership in environment conservation and our limited development planetary for sustainable development based on commitment. Just to set a an example, we are committed to build energy in our transport sector and energy efficient housing to transform from fossil fuel transport and domestic cooking and heating. Bhutan first made the promise of carbon neutrality in 2009. The world hardly noticed. They said it again in 2016. This time, the world did notice. But little did they know that Bhutan would go beyond neutrality and achieve the tag of carbon negative. This hasn't been a cheap campaign. Bhutan has depended heavily on hydropower. They have subsidized LEDs and moved towards paperless government. The biggest contribution has come from the people. They've adapted to a new lifestyle, one where they are allies of nature. In 2015, the Bhutanese mobilized for a Guinness World Record. 3, 2, 1, go! They planted 46,672 trees in 1 hour. This tree will grow into Bhutan's lungs. One of the most remaining biodiversity hotspots in the world. South Asia, go.
Okay.
Countries across the world.
I'm sorry, I have to reshare my presentation again. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, but I keep on losing my screen actually. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Okay, so then you heard enough about what Bhutan is, where it's located, and then how we conserve the environment and how carbon negative we are. And now let me talk about water. The only purpose why I shared about the forest coverage, how carbon negative we are, is because water is the climate sensitive sector, and then I will connect it in my following slides. So when it comes to the water resources of the country, we have 5 major river basins in the country, and when it comes to the water availability, the per capita water availability is 94,508 meter cubic per annum, and the flow is 2,238 meter cubic per second, which makes Bhutan the highest per capita water availability in the region. Now let's talk about climate. We have 4 seasons and we get 72% of the total rainfall during this monsoon month, and during the winter we receive least rainfall with low temperature. And the analysis done on the climate analysis that's done on the 21 years data reveals that there was an increasing temperature trend over Bhutan. So here you can see how our glaciers are retreating. You can see the pictures of the same glaciers in 2004 and how it decreased in 2019 here. So let me talk about the rainfall trend in Bhutan. So the seasonal temperature has increased as well. It's increased, the mean annual temperature has been increased by 0.8 degrees Celsius. And the seasonal rainfall trend reveals that the wet area will become wetter and the dry will become drier. And in the southern belt of Bhutan, we will be receiving higher rainfalls. And now, let's talk about the trend of river flow. And this is this study done by ATB in 2016.
Karma, are you with us? I think she has lost her internet connection.
Oh, sorry, my power's gone again. I had to connect back to my hotspot again.
Okay, no issues. Please continue.
Yeah. Can't see my slides again. Wait. Sorry for the technical glitches. It's not always like this, but it's just not favoring me today. Okay, so when it comes to the trend of river, it said that it's showing negative trend for almost all the stations in Bhutan, and then we are heavily dependent on the hydropowers. So now when the river trends are changing during the monsoon, this will impose major flooding threats, and then 70% of our Bhutanese populations are living in riversides. And the most devastating flood in the history that happened in Bhutan, that happened during the Cyclone Alia time in May 2019, which caused a damage of around 719 million to the nation. So here are some of the pictures I can show you that caused because of the flooding. And this is due to the seasonal flooding. And this is the flood that happened in the early morning in a district called Tongsa. And there never used to be a flood in this stream. And then because of the amount of rainfall that received in the previous days, incessant rainfall causes flooding. Now, Bhutan is very vulnerable to glacier lake outburst flood. Of course, we do have seasonal flooding, but then glacier lake outburst poses major vulnerability to and threat to Bhutan. So now, and then Bhutan, we have a lot of glaciers and glacier lakes. See, as you can see here, there are a total of 700 glaciers. This is about 1.64% of the total land cover in Bhutan. And this Punachangchu Basin, where we have two major hydropower construction going on, that's the most vulnerable basin because we have a lot of glacier lakes up there in that basin. See, so we have a total of 2,674 lakes, which accounts to the area of 106.8 kilometers square. And now out of all the glaciers that we have 17 potentially dangerous glacier lakes in Bhutan. And then they are identified dangerous because of their marine condition and also due to their lake's morphology. So the biggest glacier lake outburst that happened in the country was back in 1994. So let me show you a small video on how that happened. The resolution is not very good since it's from like so many years back, but just have a look at how it happened and what kind of havoc it can create.
It is among the most feared natural disasters throughout the Himalayas. This rare footage shows a glacial lake outburst flood ripping through the village of Punaha in 1994. 21 people died, a year's worth of crops destroyed.
I lived here when the lake burst in 1994. I saw people picked up by the water and carried away. Yaks and horses were washed away. Even today, I don't like to go near the river because I'm very afraid of another bluff happening. Paloma lives with her elderly mother and one daughter, just meters from the edge of the Fortune River. She was born here and narrowly survived the 1994 glacial flood. She lives in constant fear that another may strike.
Okay, so as you have seen, flooding just not creates environmental issues, but it creates a social issue. People fear, and then people fear on this, and then it creates a lot of social impacts because many of them will be displaced because of such flooding issues. So now we have like 17 potentially dangerous glacial lakes, and then some of them are the marine conditions are very weak. So then this has been identified as these two lakes. They're identified as dangerous, and then the marine condition here has become weak. And then if these two lakes join and if it bursts, then it's going to create 3 times the effect that created in 1994. So then now let's talk about, I've talked about the flooding issues. Now let's talk about what mitigation measures we are taking to avoid such flooding issues. Yeah.
Fight to save their country from a glacial flood begins promptly at 7:45 a.m. at this base camp near Lake Tortury. 350 men and women have traveled 9 days through treacherous mountains for the opportunity to work on one of the kingdom's most important and ambitious projects. Because of the high altitude and the risk of avalanches, heavy machines cannot be used, so workers are equipped with only hand tools. They work with a sense of urgency to remove boulders and debris.
Okay, so by doing this, they managed to lower the level of the lake, and then that's how we escaped. That's how we escaped from next glacial lakes outburst to happen. So now let's talk about how the country is approaching to adapt and to prepare for such disasters. So we have this National Center for Hydrology and Meteorology, which rigorously work on setting up the stations wherever is required, so that we can get the real-time data. So we have 20 Class A meteorological stations. We have like 62 Class C stations. We have 85 automatic weather stations in Bhutan. And then this is the data from like 2 years ago. And then the stations at the higher altitude are being set up now through multiple projects. And we also have, on this vulnerable basins, we also have early warning systems, as you can see here in the map. And now let's talk about what we are doing. What is Bhutan's initiative and way forward in terms of being a climate resilient society? So when we be climate resilient, we will also be able to prepare ourselves better when the flooding occurs. So then we have a climate change policy developed by the it was by then the National Environment Commission in 2020, and we also have a department under the Ministry of Information and Technology, Ministry of Information and Transport, which carries out the flood analysis study of the whole country, and also NCHM, which conducts the flood analysis of all the basins in the country. We have this NAPA project. The sole objective of the NAPA project is to reduce the vulnerability of the impact of climate change, as integrate it to the adaptation into all levels of development. And then we have our national communication report to UNFCCC. So we cover all the sectors which are climate sensitive, for instance, water, agriculture, health. And then we send out the report to UNFCCC. In fact, the third communication report to UNFCCC in 2020 proved that Bhutan is a climate negative, carbon negative country. I say this repeatedly because Bhutan is a carbon negative country, right? We shouldn't be impacted with the climate-induced disaster, right? But then since climate change is a global issue, we are being impacted. So this is why I'm emphasizing on it. And then there's also glove studies, glove early warning systems that we have installed as an adaptation measures. And then we also have this NAPA project, which identified the immediate projects and activities that can help communities adapt and to integrate climate change risks into the national planning projects. So this NAPA and NAPA are the living documents whereby we will change the adaptation measures with respect to the time. So these are the papers that I have published related to the impact of climate change on the water resources particularly, and then it shows how and then it also includes water-related disasters such as flooding, drought, and a little bit of drought too. So then if you're interested, I'm leaving the link. I have here, I'll also leave the link in the chat box. And then also, as the climate report have, from the results of the climate report, we have identified that the river trends in Bhutan are going to change. It's going to be very high in the summer causing flood and very low in the winter, which will impose difficulty in hydropower management. So that's why further Bhutan is also, henceforth Bhutan is also emphasizing on renewable energy, particularly solar. So we'll be having our first mega solar power plant, which will be of 17 megawatt soon in the country. So then I have also written a paper on it. It will soon be published. Thank you for listening to me. That's all. If you have any questions, you can throw it to me or leave it in the chat box.
Thank you, Karma. Thank you very much. And hearty congratulations for all the papers that you have written. And we look forward to reading the ones which are in the process of publication. So in Bhutan, the threat of floods, including glacial lake outburst floods, which are called GLOBs, they pose significant challenges, we gather. So just for those who may not have an idea, GLOBs generally occur when glacial lakes rapidly release large volumes of water, leading to devastating downstream impacts specifically. So Bhutan's mountainous terrain and the retreat of glaciers due to climate change, they sort of contribute to increased GLOB risks, as Karma was sharing. And additionally, heavy rainfall events can trigger riverine floods, further exacerbating the vulnerability of communities. And as you rightly spoke of social impacts, addressing them requires comprehensive and coordinated efforts and collaborative as well. So this includes short-term efforts like providing immediate relief to the communities, temporary shelter, and access to clean water and healthcare. Also long-term solutions which involve community engagement, capacity building, and the implementation of resilience building measures that can empower communities to sort of better cope with and recover from flood events. So it is crucial to prioritize social factors alongside infrastructure and environmental considerations to ensure well-being and resilience of communities in the face of floods and GLOBs in Bhutan, all of which Karma had very well shared with us. So now I open this platform for Q&A. You can either share your questions in the chat box, or you can raise your hands and we'll take the questions one by one. Yes, Dr. Rema.
Thank you very much, Saran, for wonderful moderating, and thank you, Alif, and also Miss Karma for your inspiring sharing. I have a questions. Maybe the question is very basic because I'm not familiar with Maldives and also with Maldives and also with Bhutan. But I want to know more, like, for example, for Alif, Maldives is an island country. So maybe in my imagination, maybe you can answer. Maybe the flood is due to either the heavy flooding, but also because of the ocean. So maybe tidal waves and the climate change. And so how, what is the main cause of the flooding in Maldives, and how do you see the progress of the contribution from youth and young professionals in Maldives for flood mitigation? Because I think you have mentioned a lot of vulnerabilities, but maybe you can also mention about the progress that is being done currently in Maldives. That is for Alif. And then for Miss Karma, I think that has been a very massive effort that you have been sharing. And so how do you see it is effective for flooding mitigation in terms of maybe before there were a lot of flooding, but now there is less flooding, and what is the major achievement and also the contribution from the young professionals in Bhutan, and how are you working, because you are mainly mentioning your contribution from the global organization and the government, and how are you collaborating with the communities? How do you engage the communities leadership and communities initiative? Thank you.
I'll go first. So your question was, what's the main cause of flooding, and also how youth are addressing the flood risk. So
yeah,
I would say the main, we have a lack of data management, but the main cause would be heavy rainfall. But if you look at tidal surges, the damages it causes, since it's very sudden, and also because our critical infrastructures are very close by to the coast, the damage caused by tidal surges would be more. I can't say for sure because again, data management is like, and we lack a lot of research being done in this area. As for youth action, the current generation, the current youth generation is more aware about climate change, and also how our weather patterns and the intensity of these natural emergency situations also are, how these factors are changing, and so they want to take action, but currently they face challenges, and we at You Inspire Maldives is trying to give a platform through projects and also opportunities given by the alliance to give them this platform to take action at the community level, and also at the community level there are informal and formal NGOs that work on more towards, I would say, response towards flood situations more than reducing the risk. But if response is better, I guess the resilience and the damages cost would be less. So there are different areas we could address, but the youth are very eager to take action, but currently we lack the facilities and the finances to do so. I hope that answers the question, Rahma.
Yeah, thank you, Alif.
Okay. If I got you right, your first question is about the difficulty in monitoring, right? So the difficulty that we face is in terms of altitude. So we are talking about around 7,000 or above meters, 7,000 meters above the sea level. So people have to work there, monitor there, because our glaciers are all there. So then that's the difficulty that we face in terms of the altitude, and then also installing weather stations at that altitude is very difficult. So we have very few at the moment, but then there are initiatives being taken from the government side to install more weather stations there, so that we will be able to get more snow data, more cryosphere data. And then in terms of and then there was also question on how do we manage, right? How do we manage? How do we adapt? And then, well, now as mentioned, the biggest threat that we face are the GLOFs, the glacial lake outburst floods. Of course, we do have the riverine flooding, but then GLOF imposes the major threat. So then we have two glaciers that are marked as benchmark, and they are called Thana and Dongjungla. So then they are being constantly monitored, and the gauges, the measurement gauges are there, whereby we see how the glaciers are changing with time and with temperature. That's number one. The other one is that we have there are like two studies that has been carried out to identify the potentially dangerous glacial lakes. And I mentioned in my presentation that there are 17, and these are monitored on everyday basis. And there are people from the National Center for Hydrology and Meteorology permanently placed there so that they can monitor these glacial lakes. And I think that is how we are able to prevent ourselves from another glacier and from another glacial lake outburst event. And then now, when it comes to engaging our community, I might not be able to answer everything, but then I will be at least able to answer on the surface. So then when we install the early warning systems, the flooding vulnerability assessment, the flood hazard assessment will be already done. And the people who fall in the vulnerable area, they are consulted, and then they are also sensitized on how the early warning system works. And then they are also sensitized on when the alarm hits, what level the alarm will hit, and at what time they should move. And then also the evacuation centers have been identified, and then when we do such studies, communities are always involved, and they are always asked on what they want. And now that's on the studies that have been already put out, and then on the studies that we will be doing. For instance, like I'll be doing one project, and then there are people who falls in the vulnerable areas. So then they will be thoroughly consulted on what they want, how the resettlement should be done, so on and so forth. So when we do such projects, the communities are always consulted at the highest level. Thank you. I hope this answers your question.
Thank you, Ms. Karma.
Dr. Emma, you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Is that all? Do we have any more questions from anyone?
Maybe you can deliver the one from Yonggu.
I'm sorry, Dr. Emma, your voice was not clear.
Maybe you can deliver the question from Yonggu on early warning system.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, the question was, could your sharing be related to the current initiatives such as early warning for all? Is there any context there in the context of early warning systems with respect to GLOF?
The question to me, sorry.
Both of you.
Okay, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah. Dr. Emma, can you please share the question exactly?
So the question is, how is your how is your work is related to current initiatives on the early warning, early action for all regarding to flood early warning system in Bhutan and also in Maldives. The early warning system.
Current initiative?
Yes.
You mentioned
early warning system. Wait. The current early warning system.
Okay, so if you particularly talk about my initiative, I'm not very much involved in installing them, but then I'm very much involved on doing the analysis on how water resources impact with respect to climate change, and also involved in doing the flood hazard assessment and flood vulnerability assessment. I think these studies all leads to the installation of EWS, early warning systems. So in terms of Bhutan, the most vulnerable basin is Punatongchu Basin, and then we have early warning system installed there. And then is this another two basin, Mangdichu, and it's also installed there. And there's only one basin whereby we did install the early warning system, but then there's just one potentially dangerous glacier like Abus. Just one identified potentially dangerous glacier lakes there. So maybe because of that reason, and also maybe because of a financial reason, because it's not feasible to build an early warning system just for one lake and on that basin. And but if you are interested and if you want to learn more, I can share you the documents from the relevant agency on how early warning system work, how they are installed. I can share you. So maybe you can leave your email address in the meeting chat here, so that I can email you the documents.
Sure. Thank you, Karma. Alif, do you have anything to add here?
For in the context of Maldives, early warning and these are handled by the meteorological office, and if I am not very informed about this, but mostly these data collection centers are at regional airports, and if you want a very detailed answer, I could reach out to them and also get a better answer for you on that.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from the participants? Yes, Ayush Surtiari.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Ayu Surtiari. I am a researcher at the Research Center for Population in BRIN, similar institute with Dr. Rahma. Firstly, I would like to apologize because I joined this workshop quite late, but maybe my question already answered during the presentation, but I would like to deliver my question to Karma about flooding in Bhutan, because what I understand about this country is very green, and then they don't really contribute to the emission actually, but contribute a lot. But then the impact of the climate change is very obvious, and then I would like to ask about how the strategy, or what actually the priority of adaptation measure that implemented by government. I mean that whether they focus on the hard structure, or mainly going to the direction of the natural based solution. And then how about the relocation? Because if we talk about the glacier or flooding caused by the everything's coming down from the melting of the ice, it means we could not avoid the impact, because it will impact a lot of things, like a cascading impact. For example, it's not only about the water coming into the mainland, or it's not about the flooding, but maybe also the quality of water that maybe could impact the livelihood of the people who rely on the agriculture, or the other related to the water things. So maybe Dr. Karma could explain again, or I apologize if already presented during the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ayu. I will be happy to answer to your questions. So your first question is on seeing Bhutan as a green country, and we're very stringent on the conservation of our environment, right? So I've shown you a video on that. The sole purpose of showing you how green is Bhutan, right? And 50%, almost 50, yeah, 51% of our country is covered with parks. We have national parks connected by the biological corridors, whereby anything there, any infrastructure or anything is restricted there. I mean, nothing can happen there. And then we have around 72% of our country covered in forests. And by constitution, we cannot go lower than 60. So Bhutan is a carbon negative country. But still, why are we having the flooding? Why our glaciers are melting? I mean, retreating at a very fast rate. Why? I mean, we didn't do it, we didn't contribute to it, but since climate change is the global impact, right? We have to face it. And we also have to prepare the mitigation measures, the adaptation measures, which will come as a huge cost to the country. And Bhutan is a small country, our economy is small, and we depend on hydropower, which is a very climate sensitive sector. The change in the flow of the change in the flow regime is going to cause difficulty in hydropower management, and we depend on agriculture. Around 61 or 67, I don't remember, but around 60%, near to 60% of our population is engaged with agriculture. Now, because of this too little water, right? It's our agriculture is being impacted, and because of the too much water, our agriculture's land are being flooded away. So then these things, the climate is very much relevant. Very much, I mean, we can relate it to the disasters, especially the water-related disasters. So now you also ask questions on what we do, right? And what are the initiatives that we take? So first of all, we try. Now we cannot mitigate much. Mitigation is like sort of out of the question now. But then what we can do is we can adapt. We are actually left with no option but to adapt to the impact of climate changes. So then what we do is we constantly monitor, we install like more stations so that we can get data, and then according to the data we can analyze, and we can have adaptation measures in place. And also there's also question if on the infrastructures. So then especially on the riverine flooding, there is this department called they used to be called Flood Engineering Management Division, but now like we went through a drastic government transformation changes, so now it's called FPED. So they do it. They are the concerned government agency doing it for riverine flooding. So then they do the analysis, and then they bring the infrastructure measures into place, right? And then there's also nature-based solutions whereby we do it solely by doing the data analysis, and then we bring out the nature-based solutions. Now, I think, did I answer your question? Did I leave out? I feel that I left some out. Oh yes. And then the other thing, the other thing that I mentioned is about being the victim of climate change. Like although like you didn't trigger it, but you're getting the impact. So then we are trying in the international platforms. We are trying for this carbon trading being and then getting negotiated on it. So these are the plans, and then whatever reports that I talked about, the NAP, right? The assessment of water resources and climate change, the assessment of climate change impact on water resources, the NAP documents and all, it's all being sent out to COP27 so that they can see it. The results are not out yet, hopefully soon. Yeah, these are the initiatives that we are taking. Thank you.
Oh.
Did I answer your questions?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very interesting. Yeah, I just realized that I think this is my first time really learning about the climate change impact in the country where we really well knowledge, have a very good understanding about what Bhutan is. So I would be very happy if I could also read the National Adaptation Plan. So just want to see how the country without emission affected significantly by the climate change impact.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
very much.
my email address in the poster that's been shared in the group, so you can send an email to me. I'll be happy to share the information.
Oh yeah. Maybe Dr. I didn't see your email address because I'm quite late to join the.
Oh, I will text you. I will say I'll leave a message to you in the chat box.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karma. Thank you, Ayub. Any more questions from our participants? Okay, I take that as a no. I would now request Hanif to deliver the key takeaways from this session.
Okay, thank you very much, Saran. Thank you very much, Karma, and also Ali for sharing their challenges and strategies in their own respective countries, from Bhutan and also from Maldives. Well, just like Ibu Ayu earlier, it is also like my first time hearing about the challenges from Maldives and Bhutan. Actually, in early 2020, it was during New Year. It was the first time for me experiencing flood. I mean, like being a survivor of flood. It wasn't like a super big flood, but it was definitely my first time experiencing flood, and all of my stuff were flooded, and I have to go upstairs to sleep. So having the perspective of researcher in disaster related areas and also survivors, it is also very interesting to see how other countries adapt to the condition, and also how they find solution with their challenges. In Maldives, with a small island nation with heavy rainfall, and also the impact of tidal and storm surges are very high. It was really great to see the actions from youth and young professionals to do community-based risk mapping and also disaster management planning. Maybe this can also be, I'm just reflecting back to Indonesia, where I'm from, where we have probably more than 17,000 islands, and we definitely have some smaller islands, cities, or like provinces. We could learn a lot from the experience of our friends in Maldives. As for the what Karma shared in Bhutan, we don't have glaciers. Maybe we do have it in Papua Island at the highest altitude. It was also eye-opening what other countries are facing, and the projects that she has done. She has done many water and climate-related projects. I'm also happy and inspired, I guess, by Karma on her work in these areas. I also like her storytelling aspect by using videos and news. It was a nice approach, and not only like sharing data, but also like from the human aspect, like maybe the people at risk, the survivors. We listen to their stories, but also we have to. She also presented the perspective of researchers. There are many things I could learn from both speakers, and I hope that this will help us in facing the challenges in floods, because the topic of this webinar is flood. I guess those are the takeaways from my side. Thank you very much, Saran. Thank you very much to all the speakers and all the participants joining from the beginning to the end.
Thank you, Hanif. That was a wonderful set of key takeaways. So as we conclude this session on flood challenges and strategies, we are reminded of the profound importance of our collective efforts in addressing the social, environmental, and infrastructural dimensions of floods. So today we have delved into vulnerabilities faced by small island nation, explored climate projections, discussed glacial lake outburst floods or glouts, and examined the social impacts experienced by communities. So it is evident that floods pose significant threats to human lives, homes, livelihoods, and the overall well-being of individuals and societies. However, I believe that through collaborative action and proactive measures, we can prepare, mitigate these risks, and build resilient communities. So let us carry forward the knowledge and insights shared by our speakers during the session and try to translate them into action. So by fostering community engagement, implementing early warning systems, very importantly, investing in sustainable infrastructure, promoting inclusive emergency response, and prioritizing social considerations, I think we can enhance our collective resilience and reduce the impact of floods on vulnerable populations. I extend gratitude to the speakers and participants for their valuable contribution and commitment to this crucial cause. May we continue to work hand in hand across borders and disciplines to forge a future where floods are no longer a devastating force, but maybe a challenge we are prepared to face and overcome. I would now like to invite Dr. Rehma to deliver closing remarks and offer words of gratitude for our speakers.
Thank you very much, Saran, and thank you very much again, Alif, Karma, and Hanif, for sharing today and also delivering the key takeaways, very good takeaways, Hanif, and also elaborating your personal experience. I think flood happens a lot in many countries, and we have additional challenge because for example, in archipelagic country, but also in mountainous area, compound with the climate change, so it adds the vulnerability, but also it is clear, like Karma has provided the clear example on how to mitigate. So maybe we've been thinking why we put flood when the flood is already passing, but actually this is when it's the best time for us to do something on flood strategies. So then in the next upcoming rainy season, we don't have as much flood as we had before, because we are not just panicking when flood happens, but the more important is what we can do before the flood happens. So now that maybe we have less flood, it is time to really think about better strategies so that in the upcoming season we can have less flood, and we have a lot of lessons learned today. Thank you, Ms. Karma, for sharing a lot of your experiences. And I think many of us is also like the case in Maldives, we need more resources, but also we can start with what we can do, and also with the nature-based solution that have been discussed with Ayu and Ms. Karma. So maybe we can start small and start with what we can do to minimize the flood disaster, so we can have a better strategy on mitigation. So again, thank you very much, and I hope this can bring some inspiration for all of us. It do have some inspiration for me, and I hope that we can do more innovation. Maybe it can inspire for the upcoming innovation that we can do in our lives. So again, thank you very much, and we are having this Choco DRR talk. We are restarting again to have it every month, so hopefully every third or fourth Saturday. So please join us next month in the 22nd July with the other topics on DRR and the engagement, the innovation on youth and young professionals utilizing science, technology, and engineering. So thank you again very much for everyone, and I hope that we can contribute more for disaster risk reduction.
Thank you, Dr. Rehma. May I now request Hanif to play the closing video?
Oke, jadi yang CMLP 3 bulan, CLP 7 bulan.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hanif, can we stop the live streaming now? Thank
Also
you.
the recording.